Marcus Chen wiped the grease from his hands as he drifted toward the massive derelict vessel, floating in the asteroid field. His salvage ship Lucky Strike looked like a toy compared to the alien craft that stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length. The ship's hull bore strange markings and geometric patterns unlike anything in the galactic database. "Another Voidwalker vessel," he muttered into his comm unit. "Command, this is Salvage Team 7. Found another one of those ghost ships. Same design as the others we've been finding lately." Static crackled through his helmet speaker before a tired voice responded. "Copy that, Chen. Standard protocol. Check for survivors, salvage what you can, then mark it for deep space disposal. These Voidwalker ships give everyone the creeps." Marcus had been working salvage operations in the Kepler sector for 8 years. He'd seen plenty of abandoned ships from various species, but the Voidwalker vessels were different. They appeared without warning, drifted silently through space, and were always completely empty. No bodies, no logs, no explanation for why entire crews simply vanished. The airlock sealed behind him as he entered the alien ship. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows along the curved corridors. The architecture was designed for beings much smaller than humans, forcing Marcus to crouch as he moved deeper into the vessel. His scanner detected traces of oxygen in the atmosphere, though it was thin and stale. Strange symbols covered the walls, pulsing with a faint blue light that seemed to follow his movement. The ship's technology was far more advanced than human engineering, yet it lay powerless and dead. Marcus had learned not to touch anything unnecessarily on these ships. Too many salvagers had reported equipment malfunctions and strange dreams after extended exposure to Voidwalker technology. As he rounded a corner, his motion detector picked up something unusual. The reading was faint but definitely organic. Marcus froze, checking his weapon. In 8 years, he'd never found a living being on one of these ships. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing through the empty corridors. "Is someone there?" A soft whimpering sound drifted from somewhere ahead. Marcus followed the noise, his pulse quickening. The sound was weak, almost like a frightened animal. He moved carefully through what appeared to be crew quarters, scanning each room with his flashlight. The whimpering grew louder as he approached a small chamber at the end of the corridor. Inside, huddled in the corner behind some fallen debris, was the most unusual creature Marcus had ever seen. It was roughly the size of a large dog, but resembled a wolf with pale, almost translucent fur. Its eyes were completely white, lacking pupils, and it was clearly starving. Ribs showed through its thin coat, and it trembled with weakness. The creature looked up at Marcus with those strange, blank eyes and let out a pitiful whine. It tried to back further into the corner, but was too weak to move much. Marcus could see it was dying. "Easy there, little guy," Marcus said softly, slowly removing his helmet. The air was breathable, if stale. "I'm not going to hurt you." The wolf-like alien tilted its head at the sound of his voice. Despite its obvious fear, there was intelligence in its posture. It watched Marcus carefully, as if trying to determine his intentions. Marcus reached into his supply pack and pulled out an emergency ration bar. He broke off a small piece and held it out slowly. "Are you hungry?" "I bet you are." The creature sniffed the air cautiously. After a long moment, it crept forward on shaking legs and gently took the food from Marcus's hand. It ate desperately as if it hadn't had a meal in weeks. "That's it," Marcus encouraged, offering another piece. "Take it easy. Don't want you getting sick." As the alien ate, Marcus studied its features more closely. The pale coloration and white eyes suggested it was albino, a rare condition among most species. Its fur had an almost ethereal quality, shimmering slightly in the emergency lighting. Despite its weakened state, there was something graceful about the creature. "What happened to your crew?" Marcus asked, though he didn't expect an answer. "Where is everyone?" The wolf finished eating and looked up at Marcus with what seemed like gratitude. It took a tentative step closer, no longer cowering in fear. Marcus held out his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, the creature allowed him to gently stroke its head. The fur was surprisingly soft, with an unusual texture that seemed to shimmer under his touch. The alien closed its eyes and leaned into the contact, clearly starved for companionship as much as food. Marcus felt a strange connection to the abandoned creature. He'd always been drawn to helping strays and underdogs, a trait that had led him to salvage work in the first place. Most people saw only junk in the derelict ships he explored, but Marcus found beauty in the abandoned technology and stories of lost civilizations. "I can't leave you here," he said, making a decision that would change both their lives. But I need to know you won't bite me or anything. Can you understand what I'm saying? The wolf tilted its head again and made a soft sound that wasn't quite a bark or whine. It seemed to be trying to communicate, though Marcus couldn't understand the meaning. He stood slowly and backed toward the door. I'm going to get some proper food and water. Don't go anywhere, okay? The creature watched him leave, those strange white eyes following his every movement. Marcus hurried back to his ship, his mind racing. Regulations clearly stated that all alien life forms had to be reported to the Colonial Authority immediately. But something about this situation felt different. The Void Walker ships were supposed to be empty. Finding a survivor raised questions that Marcus wasn't sure the authorities would handle appropriately. He'd heard stories about alien specimens disappearing into government labs never to be seen again. As he gathered supplies, Marcus made a choice that went against everything in his training manual. He was going to help this creature, regulations be damned. Something about those white eyes and the gentle way it had taken food from his hand told him this being deserved better than becoming a lab experiment. The wolf was waiting exactly where he'd left it, watching the door as if it had known he would return. Marcus returned with a portable water dispenser and several nutrition packs designed for emergency situations. The wolf creature had moved closer to the door as if waiting for his return. Its tail, barely visible before due to weakness, now showed the faintest hint of movement. Look what I brought you, Marcus said, setting down the supplies. He activated the water dispenser, and a small stream flowed into a collapsible bowl. The creature's nostrils flared as it caught the scent of fresh water. The alien approached cautiously and began drinking. Marcus watched in amazement as the water seemed to revitalize it almost immediately. Its posture straightened and the trembling in its limbs lessened noticeably. Water was the main problem, wasn't it? Marcus observed. How long were you trapped in here? After drinking its fill, the wolf sat back on its haunches and looked directly at Marcus. For a moment, those white eyes seemed to be studying him intently. Then the creature did something unexpected. It raised one paw and placed it gently on Marcus's knee. The touch sent a strange sensation through Marcus's mind. Images flashed briefly. Glimpses of star charts, the feeling of vast loneliness, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Marcus jerked back in surprise. Were you trying to communicate telepathically? The wolf tilted its head and made a soft sound that was almost like a sigh. It tried again, placing its paw on Marcus's hand this time. The contact was gentler, and Marcus forced himself to relax. This time the images were clearer. He saw the ship as it had been before, filled with beings similar to his new companion but with normal-colored fur. He felt their panic as something went wrong, their desperate attempts to save themselves, and then emptiness. The wolf had been left behind, too small and weak to escape with the others. They abandoned you, Marcus said with growing anger. Your own people left you to die. The creature's ears drooped, confirming his interpretation. It looked down at its pale fur with what Marcus could only describe as shame. In the brief mental contact, he had sensed that its albino condition made it different from the others, possibly considered defective or unlucky. That's terrible, Marcus said firmly. There's nothing wrong with being different. On Earth we have a saying, every dog has its day. Though I guess you're more wolf than dog. The alien looked up at him questioningly. Marcus smiled and scratched behind its ears, which seemed to be a universal pleasure point across species. I'm going to call you Snow, he decided, because of your beautiful white fur. Do you like that name? Snow's tail gave a definite wag, the first truly happy gesture Marcus had seen from the creature. The response made him grin widely. Snow it is, then. Now we need to figure out what to do with you. I can't exactly report finding you to my superiors. They'd want to take you away for study. Snow pressed closer to Marcus as if understanding the danger in his words. The creature's instincts seemed sharp despite its weakened condition. Marcus spent the next hour feeding Snow small portions of food and exploring more of the ship. The vessel was indeed completely abandoned except for Snow. In what appeared to be the captain's quarters, Marcus found personal items left behind in the hasty evacuation. Strange trinkets, what might have been family portraits, and a small device that projected star maps when activated. Snow followed him everywhere, staying close but not getting in his way. The creature seemed to understand that Marcus was trying to help and cooperated fully with his exploration. In the ship's medical bay, Marcus made a disturbing discovery. Records in the computer system, translated by his universal language processor, revealed that Snow had been scheduled for something called genetic purification treatment. The medical log suggested this was not a healing procedure, but rather elimination due to genetic deviation. They weren't just going to abandon you, Marcus said grimly. They were planning to kill you. Snow's ears flattened against its head and it whimpered softly. The creature had likely understood what was planned for it, making its survival even more remarkable. Marcus made his decision. You're coming with me, Snow. I don't care what the regulations say. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. He gathered what supplies he could carry and led Snow back toward his ship. The creature followed without hesitation, seeming to understand that its fate was now tied to this strange human who had shown it kindness. As they reached the airlock connecting to the Lucky Strike, Marcus paused. This is it, Snow. Once you board my ship, there's no going back. Are you sure you want to trust me? Snow looked up at him with those remarkable white eyes and placed a paw on his leg again. This time the mental contact was warm and full of trust. The creature had made its choice. Marcus helped Snow through the airlock and into his ship. The wolf immediately began exploring the new environment, sniffing everything with obvious curiosity. The artificial gravity and life support systems were a dramatic improvement over the dying alien vessel. Welcome to the Lucky Strike, Snow, Marcus said, sealing the airlock behind them. It's not much, but it's home. Snow found a comfortable spot near Marcus's workstation and settled down, keeping its eyes on him. The creature seemed content for the first time since Marcus had found it. As Marcus prepared to undock from the alien ship, he made his report to command. Salvage Team 7 to control. The Voidwalker ship is empty as expected. No survivors, no usable technology. Recommend immediate disposal. The lie came easily. Marcus had crossed a line, but looking at Snow resting peacefully in his ship, he felt no regret. Some rules were meant to be broken when basic decency was at stake. Snow had survived abandonment, starvation, and the threat of execution simply for being different. The least Marcus could do was give the creature a chance at a real life. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus rescued Snow from the derelict Voidwalker ship. The change in the alien wolf was remarkable. Good food, fresh water, and companionship had transformed the starving creature into a healthy, vibrant being. Snow's white fur now had a lustrous shine, and its movements were graceful and confident. The Lucky Strike had become their shared home. Snow had claimed a spot near the navigation console as its favorite resting place, where it could watch Marcus work. The creature had proven to be incredibly intelligent, quickly learning the ship's routines and even helping in small ways. Marcus discovered that Snow could sense electromagnetic fields, making it invaluable for detecting hidden technology in salvaged ships. The wolf would alert him to energy signatures his equipment missed, leading to several valuable finds that significantly increased their salvage profits. You're quite the partner, aren't you? Marcus said, scratching Snow behind the ears as they approached another derelict vessel. This one was human in origin, a merchant ship that had been attacked by pirates and left drifting. Snow's ears perked up, and it made a soft warning sound. Through their mental connection, which had grown stronger over the weeks, Marcus sensed danger. What is it, Snow? What do you sense? The wolf moved to the viewport and stared at the apparently empty ship. Its hackles rose slightly, and it let out a low growl that Marcus had never heard before. Marcus trusted Snow's instincts completely by now. He activated the ship's deep scan systems and ran a thorough analysis of the merchant vessel. At first glance, it appeared to be just another dead hulk floating in space. But Snow's continued agitation made him look deeper. There, Marcus muttered, spotting the anomaly. Life support is running in the cargo hold, but it's shielded to avoid detection. Someone's hiding in there. Snow's warning had potentially saved them from walking into a trap. Pirates often use derelict ships as bait, hiding inside to ambush salvage crews. Marcus changed his approach, using the Lucky Strike's communication system to hail the seemingly empty vessel. Attention, vessel in distress. This is Marcus Chen of the Colonial Salvage Authority. Please respond. After several minutes, a weak voice crackled through the static. Thank God. Please help us. We're trapped in the cargo hold. The ship's been damaged and we can't get to the escape pods. Marcus exchanged a look with Snow. The wolf's posture had relaxed slightly, but it still seemed cautious. Through their mental link, Marcus sensed that Snow detected both truth and fear in the transmission. How many survivors? Marcus asked. 4 of us. We're running low on air. Please hurry. Marcus began docking procedures while Snow monitored the situation. The wolf's enhanced senses could detect things that even advanced sensors missed. As they connected to the merchant ship's airlock, Snow suddenly became agitated again. More danger? Marcus asked. Snow pressed its paw against his hand, and Marcus received a flood of sensory information. There were indeed 4 humans in the cargo hold, but they weren't alone. Something else was on the ship, something that terrified Snow on an instinctual level. We'll be careful, Marcus promised, checking his sidearm and emergency equipment. Stay close to me. They entered the merchant ship together. The corridors were dark and cold with only emergency lighting functioning. Marcus followed Snow's lead as the wolf navigated toward the cargo hold, its supernatural senses guiding them safely through the damaged vessel. The 4 survivors were huddled in makeshift shelter built from cargo containers. They were a family, 2 parents and their teenage children, who had been passengers on the merchant ship when it was attacked. Thank you for coming, the father said, tears in his eyes. We thought we were going to die here. Are you injured? Marcus asked, checking each family member. They were scared and hungry but otherwise unharmed. The pirates took everything of value and left us here, the mother explained. But they did something else too. They released some kind of creature in the ship before they left. We've been hiding from it for 3 days. Snow's ears flattened against its head and it growled softly. Whatever was hunting these people had the wolf seriously concerned. What kind of creature? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. We don't know, the teenage daughter whispered. It's big and makes terrible sounds. It's been trying to break into the cargo hold, but we managed to barricade the doors. Marcus looked at Snow, who was staring intently at the sealed cargo hold entrance. Through their mental connection, he sensed that the creature was still nearby, waiting for an opportunity to attack. I'm going to get you all off this ship, Marcus decided. But we need to move carefully. Snow here has enhanced senses. She'll warn us if the creature gets close. The family looked at Snow with wonder and fear. They had never seen an alien like the White Wolf. But Marcus's confidence in the creature was reassuring. As they prepared to leave, Snow suddenly froze. Its mental warning hit Marcus like a wave of ice water. Something large and predatory was moving through the ship's ventilation system, hunting for them. Everyone stay quiet, Marcus whispered, drawing his weapon. It's coming. The ventilation grate above them rattled and a shadow passed overhead. Snow positioned itself between the family and the potential threat, its muscles tensed for action. Marcus realized that this was the moment when everything would change. Snow was no longer just a rescued creature seeking protection. The alien wolf was choosing to protect others, even humans it had just met. The creature was revealing a courage and nobility that went far beyond simple survival instincts. Whatever was hunting them in the darkness of the ship, they would face it together. Snow had found its pack, and Marcus had found something he had never expected in the lonely vastness of space. A true partner who would stand with him against any danger. The hunt was about to begin, but this time Snow was not the prey. The starving, abandoned creature Marcus had rescued had become something magnificent, a guardian willing to fight for those who couldn't protect themselves. The creature dropped through the ventilation grate with a metallic crash that echoed through the cargo hold. Marcus got his first clear look at what the pirates had unleashed, and his blood ran cold. It was a Cytherian hunter, one of the most feared predators in known space. The beast stood nearly 3 meters tall with 4 powerful arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Its exoskeleton was black as space, designed to blend with shadows, and its multiple eyes glowed with a sickly yellow light. Cytherian hunters were intelligent, patient killers that could track prey for days before striking. Snow stepped forward without hesitation, placing itself between the hunter and the terrified family. The size difference was staggering. Snow barely reached the creature's knee, but the White Wolf showed no fear. Snow, no, Marcus shouted. But the alien wolf was already moving. The hunter lunged with frightening speed, its claws slashing through the air where Snow had been standing a split second before. But Snow was faster, darting between the creature's legs and delivering a precise bite to what appeared to be a vulnerable joint in its exoskeleton. The hunter shrieked in pain and fury, spinning to track its small attacker. Snow danced just out of reach, using its superior agility to avoid the creature's devastating claws. Through their mental link, Marcus felt Snow's determination and tactical thinking. The wolf was analyzing the hunter's movements, looking for weaknesses. Marcus raised his weapon and fired several shots at the hunter's center mass. The energy bolt struck its exoskeleton and scattered harmlessly. The creature was heavily armored, designed to survive in the vacuum of space. "The eyes," Marcus called out. "Go for its eyes." Snow seemed to understand immediately. The wolf leaped with incredible grace, using a cargo container as a springboard to launch itself at the hunter's head. Its jaws clamped down on one of the creature's primary sensory organs, and the hunter's scream was deafening. The beast thrashed wildly, trying to dislodge Snow from its face. But the white wolf held on with grim determination, its powerful jaws locked in place. Marcus used the distraction to shepherd the family toward the exit. "Move. Everyone move," he shouted, firing covering shots at the hunter. The teenage son stumbled, frozen with terror at the sight of the battling creatures. Marcus grabbed the boy and pushed him toward his parents. Snow finally released its grip and dropped to the floor, rolling away as the hunter's claws raked the space where it had been. The creature was now half-blind and completely enraged, striking out at anything that moved. But Snow's attack had accomplished more than just physical damage. Through their mental connection, Marcus sensed that Snow had learned something important about the hunter during their brief contact. The creature's exoskeleton had weak points at the joints, and its thick armor made it slower than it appeared. This way, Marcus led the family through the cargo hold entrance while Snow continued to harass the hunter, nipping at its legs and staying just out of reach. They made it halfway to the airlock before the hunter broke free from the cargo hold. The creature moved through the ship's corridors like a living nightmare, its remaining eyes blazing with hatred. Snow appeared beside them, breathing hard but uninjured. The wolf took point, guiding them through the safest route back to the Lucky Strike. Every few moments, Snow would dart back to intercept the hunter, buying them precious seconds. Almost there, Marcus encouraged the family as they reached the final corridor. The airlock to his ship was just ahead. The hunter caught up to them at the worst possible moment. The family was halfway through the airlock when the creature rounded the corner, moving faster than Marcus had thought possible. Its claws reached for the teenage daughter, who was bringing up the rear. Snow appeared from nowhere, slamming into the hunter's arm with its full body weight. The impact knocked the creature off balance, but its claws still raked across Snow's back, leaving deep gouges in the white fur. Marcus heard Snow's mental cry of pain through their link, but the wolf never faltered. It spun around and launched itself at the hunter's throat, going for a killing blow. The hunter caught Snow in mid-leap, its massive hand closing around the wolf's body. Marcus watched in horror as the creature began to squeeze, its claws piercing Snow's skin. "No!" Marcus roared, emptying his weapon's power cell into the hunter's head. The concentrated fire finally penetrated its armor, and the creature staggered backward. Snow twisted free and collapsed to the floor, badly wounded but alive. Marcus scooped up his partner and ran for the airlock, slamming it shut just as the hunter reached them. The creature pounded on the sealed door with tremendous force, but the airlock held. Marcus carried Snow to the ship's medical bay while the family huddled together in shock. "Is it going to be okay?" the mother asked, watching Marcus tend to Snow's wounds. "She's tough," Marcus said, though he was worried. The claws had left deep punctures, and Snow had lost a significant amount of blood. He activated the ship's emergency medical systems and began treating the injuries. Snow looked up at him with those remarkable white eyes, and Marcus felt a wave of gratitude and affection through their mental link. The wolf had risked everything to protect strangers, showing a courage that put most humans to shame. "You saved us all," Marcus told Snow softly. "You beautiful, brave creature." As he worked to heal Snow's wounds, Marcus realized that something fundamental had changed. The creature he had rescued was no longer just a survivor seeking safety. Snow had become a protector, willing to face impossible odds to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. The family watched in amazement as Marcus cared for the alien wolf. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a bond between human and alien that transcended species barriers. Snow had shown them that heroism came in many forms, and that being different didn't make you less valuable. It made you unique. And sometimes, uniqueness was exactly what the universe needed. 2 days after the hunter incident, Snow was recovering well in the medical bay. The alien wolf's natural healing abilities were remarkable, though the injuries had left several permanent scars across its back. Marcus thought they made Snow look even more distinguished. like battle honors earned through courage. The rescued family, the Hendersons, had remained aboard the Lucky Strike while arrangements were made for their transport to the nearest space station. During their stay, they had grown attached to both Marcus and Snow, especially the teenage children who had never seen anything like the White Wolf. "Snow saved our lives," 16-year-old Sarah Henderson said, gently stroking the wolf's head as it rested in the medical bay. "I've never seen anything so brave." Her younger brother Tom nodded eagerly. "The way she fought that monster was incredible. She's like a superhero." Snow seemed to enjoy the attention, though Marcus could sense through their mental link that the wolf was still processing what had happened. The creature had discovered something about itself. During the fight, a protective instinct that went beyond survival. Marcus was filing his incident report when an unexpected transmission came through the ship's communication system. The signal was encrypted and carried the authorization codes of Colonial Intelligence. "Salvage vessel Lucky Strike. This is Agent Sarah Voss of Colonial Intelligence. We need to speak with you immediately regarding your recent encounter with a Catherian hunter." Marcus felt his blood run cold. Colonial Intelligence only got involved when there were serious security implications. He glanced at Snow, who had lifted its head alertly at the mention of the hunter. "This is Marcus Chin, captain of the Lucky Strike. How did you know about the hunter?" "We've been tracking that particular creature for 3 months," Agent Voss replied. "It escaped from a research facility and has been responsible for 17 deaths across 4 systems. We need to debrief you and examine your ship's sensor logs." Marcus realized they were in serious trouble. His report had mentioned the hunter but made no reference to Snow's role in defeating it. If Colonial Intelligence investigated thoroughly, they would discover the alien wolf's presence. "We'll be at Kepler Station in 6 hours," Agent Voss continued. "Dock at Bay 94. This matter is classified at the highest levels." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus staring at the communications panel. Snow approached and placed a paw on his leg, sensing his distress through their mental connection. "They'll want to take you away for study," Marcus said quietly. "Colonial Intelligence doesn't let alien species remain with civilians." Through their link, Marcus felt Snow's understanding and resignation. The wolf had known this moment would come eventually, but there was something else in Snow's mental communication, a determination to stay with Marcus regardless of the consequences. "We could run," Marcus said, considering their options. "Take the ship and disappear into the Outer Rim territories." Snow tilted its head and Marcus sensed the creature's thoughts. Running would make them fugitives and the Hendersons would be caught in the middle. The family had already suffered enough. Sarah Henderson appeared in the doorway, having overheard part of the conversation. "They want to take Snow away, don't they?" Marcus nodded grimly. "It's illegal for civilians to harbor unknown alien species. I broke the law when I decided to keep Snow." "But that's wrong," Tom protested, joining his sister. "Snow isn't dangerous. She protected us." "The law doesn't care about individual circumstances," Marcus explained. "All they'll see is an unregistered alien with unknown capabilities." The Henderson parents, David and Linda, entered the medical bay. They had been discussing the situation privately and had reached a decision. "We want to help," David announced. "Snow risked her life for our family. We're not going to let the government lock her up in some lab." "What are you thinking?" Marcus asked. Linda smiled. "David has connections in the Colonial Assembly. His brother is a representative who sits on the Alien Relations Committee. If we can get Snow classified as a protected refugee rather than a specimen, it might change everything." "The key is documentation," David explained. "We need to prove that Snow is intelligent, peaceful, and deserving of rights rather than experimentation." Marcus felt a spark of hope. The mental communication ability would prove intelligence, and we have the Henderson family as witnesses to Snow's heroic actions. Snow seemed to understand the conversation, moving closer to the family group. The wolf looked at each person in turn, and Marcus sensed its gratitude through their mental link. "We'll need to be careful about how we present this to Agent Voss," Linda warned. "If we handle it wrong, we could make things worse." Marcus made his decision. "We dock at Kepler Station as ordered, but we go in with a plan and the truth. Snow isn't just an alien specimen. She's a person who deserves rights and protection." Over the next few hours, they prepared their case. Marcus compiled sensor logs showing Snow's tactical intelligence during the hunter battle. The Hendersons prepared statements describing the wolf's protective behavior and capacity for empathy. Most importantly, Snow demonstrated its telepathic abilities, sharing memories and emotions with each family member. The experience left them amazed and convinced of the creature's sapient nature. Snow isn't just intelligent, Sarah said after experiencing the mental contact. She has feelings, memories, hopes. She's as much a person as any of us. When they reached Kepler Station, Marcus felt surprisingly calm. They had the truth on their side, and sometimes that was enough to change the world. Agent Voss was waiting at the docking bay with a full security team. She was a stern woman in her 40s with the bearing of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "Mr. Chen, we need to discuss your encounter with the hunter. Please accompany us to the debriefing room." "Before we begin," Marcus said carefully, "there's something you need to know about how the hunter was defeated." Agent Voss raised an eyebrow. "Your report stated that you drove it off with small arms fire." "That's not entirely accurate," Marcus admitted. "We had help." Snow appeared at Marcus's side, moving with the grace and dignity that had become its trademark. The security team tensed, hands moving toward their weapons. "Stand down," Agent Voss ordered, staring at Snow with professional interest rather than fear. "What species is this?" "Her name is Snow," Marcus said firmly. "And she's the reason the Henderson family is still alive." The moment of truth had arrived. Everything they had planned for would be decided in the next few minutes. Agent Voss studied Snow with the calculating gaze of someone trained to assess potential threats. The white wolf stood calmly beside Marcus, showing no signs of fear despite being surrounded by armed security personnel. "This creature engaged a Catherian hunter in combat?" Agent Voss asked, skepticism clear in her voice. "Snow didn't just engage it," David Henderson interjected, stepping forward with his family. "She saved our lives. That hunter would have killed all of us if not for her intervention." "I'll need to see all sensor data from the encounter," Agent Voss said, gesturing for everyone to move toward the debriefing room. "And I'll want individual statements from each witness." As they walked through the station corridors, Snow stayed close to Marcus, ignoring the stares and whispers from other travelers. The alien wolf's presence was causing quite a stir, but it maintained its composure with remarkable dignity. The debriefing room was sterile and intimidating, designed to put subjects on edge. Agent Voss activated recording equipment and began her investigation. "Mr. Chen, explain how you came to possess this alien creature." "Snow isn't possessed by anyone," Marcus corrected firmly.
"She's my partner."
"I rescued her from a derelict Voidwalker ship 3 weeks ago." Agent Voss's eyes sharpened. "You failed to report the discovery of alien life. That's a serious violation of salvage protocols." "The Voidwalker ship was scheduled for genetic purification treatment," Marcus explained, sharing the medical records he had recovered. "Snow was going to be executed simply for being albino. I couldn't let that happen." The agent reviewed the translated documents with growing interest. These records indicate advanced genetic modification technology. The creature's abilities may be artificially enhanced. "Snow's abilities are natural," Sarah Henderson said, moving closer to the wolf. "She can communicate telepathically." "Show them, Snow." Snow looked at Agent Voss and gently placed a paw on her hand. The agent's eyes widened in surprise as she experienced the mental contact for the first time. Through the link, Snow shared selected memories, the fear and loneliness of abandonment, the gratitude felt when Marcus offered food and water, and the determination to protect the Henderson family from the hunter. Agent Voss pulled her hand back, visibly shaken by the experience. "That was remarkable. The cognitive complexity is far beyond what we've seen in most alien species." "Snow isn't just intelligent," Linda Henderson added. "She's compassionate. She risked her life for people she had just met." "The telepathic ability raises security concerns," Agent Voss said, though her tone had become less hostile. "We need to understand the extent of these powers." Marcus sensed an opportunity. Snow only shares what she chooses to share. She respects privacy and has never violated anyone's thoughts without permission. To demonstrate, Snow approached each person in the room and offered mental contact. Agent Voss experienced the wolf's perspective during the hunter battle, feeling the tactical analysis and split-second decisions that had saved the Henderson family. "Incredible," the agent murmured. "The level of strategic thinking is sophisticated. This wasn't just animal instinct, it was calculated heroism." "That's exactly our point," David Henderson said. Snow deserves to be treated as a refugee seeking asylum, not as a specimen for study. Agent Voss was quiet for several minutes, reviewing the evidence and considering the implications. Snow sat patiently, those remarkable white eyes watching the proceedings with calm intelligence. "There's precedent for this," Agent Voss finally said. "The Centauri Accords allow for political asylum claims by sapient aliens fleeing persecution. But the process is complex and requires extensive documentation." "We have documentation," Marcus said, producing the medical records from Snow's ship, "and we have multiple witnesses to her character and abilities." "The challenge is proving sapience to the Colonial Assembly," Agent Voss explained. "They'll want extensive testing and evaluation." Snow stood and walked directly to Agent Voss, looking up at her with those compelling white eyes. The wolf placed both paws on the agent's knees and initiated mental contact. This time, Snow shared something deeper. The full emotional experience of being abandoned by its own people. The gradual development of trust with Marcus, and the growing understanding of concepts like loyalty, friendship, and sacrifice. Agent Voss was quiet for a long moment after the contact ended. When she spoke, her voice was softer. "I've been in this job for 15 years, and I've never encountered anything like this. The emotional sophistication is unmistakably sapient. So you'll help us?" Marcus asked hopefully. "I'll recommend asylum proceedings," Agent Voss decided. "But Snow will need to undergo formal evaluation by the Alien Relations Committee. The process could take months." "What happens to Snow during the evaluation?" Linda Henderson asked. "Normally the subject would be held in a secure facility," Agent Voss admitted. "But given the circumstances and Snow's demonstrated peaceful nature, I'm willing to recommend supervised release. She can remain with Mr. Chen during the proceedings." Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him. Through their mental link, he sensed Snow's joy and gratitude. "There are conditions," Agent Voss continued. "Snow must wear a monitoring device, and Mr. Chen will be held responsible for her actions. Any sign of aggressive behavior will result in immediate detention." "Snow isn't aggressive," Tom Henderson protested. "She only fought the hunter to protect us." "I understand that," Agent Voss said with a slight smile. "But regulations exist for good reasons. We're already bending several rules to accommodate this situation." Snow approached Agent Voss one more time and offered a brief mental contact. This time, the wolf shared a simple message of gratitude and a promise to honor the trust being placed in her. "Remarkable," Agent Voss said, shaking her head in amazement. "In all my years with colonial intelligence, I've never made a recommendation based on an alien's personal character reference." As they prepared to leave the debriefing room, Marcus realized that this was just the beginning of their journey. Snow would face months of evaluation and scrutiny, but they had won the first crucial battle. The starving, abandoned creature he had found in a derelict ship had become something unprecedented, an alien refugee with legal standing and the chance for a real future. Snow had already proven that being different wasn't a weakness but a strength that could change the world. 6 months had passed since Snow's asylum hearing began, and the proceedings had drawn attention from across the galaxy. The case of the telepathic alien wolf seeking refugee status had become a landmark moment in interspecies relations. Marcus stood in the observation gallery of the Colonial Assembly Chamber, watching Snow undergo her final evaluation. The white wolf sat calmly in the center of the room, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. Despite the intimidating setting, Snow maintained the dignified composure that had characterized her throughout the entire process. The hearing had been exhaustive. Snow had demonstrated her telepathic abilities, shared memories of her abandonment and rescue, and shown remarkable understanding of complex legal and ethical concepts. Most importantly, she had formed bonds with several of the committee members, proving her capacity for emotional connection across species barriers. "The evidence is clear," announced Representative Chen Valdez, the committee chairwoman. "The entity known as Snow demonstrates all the characteristics of sapient life: intelligence, self-awareness, emotional complexity, and moral reasoning." Marcus felt his heart racing as the moment of decision approached. Through their mental link, he sensed Snow's calm acceptance of whatever outcome awaited her. Furthermore, the chairwoman continued, Snow's actions in protecting the Henderson family, despite personal risk, demonstrate a moral courage that exemplifies the highest ideals of galactic civilization. The Henderson family was present in the gallery, having testified repeatedly on Snow's behalf throughout the proceedings. Sarah and Tom had become advocates for Snow, speaking at schools and community groups about their experiences with the alien wolf. The committee has also considered the disturbing evidence regarding Snow's treatment by her birth species, Representative Chen Valdez said, her voice growing stern. The planned genetic purification treatment represents a clear violation of fundamental sapient rights. Snow's original species, the Void Walkers, had been contacted during the investigation. Their representatives had expressed surprise that Snow had survived and shown little interest in reclaiming her. To them, her albino condition made her genetically undesirable and effectively worthless. Therefore, the chairwoman announced, this committee unanimously grants asylum status to the individual known as Snow. She is hereby recognized as a sapient refugee with full legal protections under colonial law. The gallery erupted in applause. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face as Snow turned to look at him with those remarkable white eyes. Through their mental connection, he felt her joy, relief, and overwhelming gratitude, but the chairwoman wasn't finished. Additionally, this committee recognizes that Snow's case highlights significant gaps in our current alien rights framework. We are recommending comprehensive reforms to protect other sapient beings who may face similar persecution. The implications were staggering. Snow's case would change how the galaxy treated abandoned or persecuted aliens, potentially saving countless lives in the future. After the formal proceedings ended, Marcus rushed down to the chamber floor where Snow was surrounded by well-wishers and media representatives. The wolf had become something of a celebrity, though she handled the attention with typical grace. How does it feel to be the first alien granted asylum on the basis of individual merit? Asked a reporter from Galactic News Network. Snow placed her paw on the reporter's hand and shared a brief mental message. The woman's eyes widened in surprise and delight. She says she's grateful for the opportunity to prove that being different isn't something to be ashamed of, the reporter translated, and she wants other abandoned or persecuted beings to know that there are people who will help them. Agent Voss approached Marcus with a satisfied smile. Over the months, she had become one of Snow's strongest advocates within the government. Congratulations, she said. Snow has made history today. The asylum precedent she's established will protect countless others in the future. What happens now? Marcus asked. Snow is free to live wherever she chooses, Agent Voss explained. She has full legal status and can even apply for colonial citizenship if she desires. Snow approached them and initiated mental contact with both Marcus and Agent Voss simultaneously. Through the link, she shared her decision about the future. She wants to work with the Alien Relations Committee, Marcus said, interpreting Snow's thoughts. She wants to help other refugees navigate the asylum process. That's perfect, Agent Voss said with enthusiasm. Her telepathic abilities and personal experience would make her invaluable in that role. The Henderson family joined them, surrounding Snow with affection. The wolf had remained close to them throughout the proceedings, and they had become like extended family. We're so proud of you, Snow, Sarah said, hugging the wolf gently. You've changed everything. Tom nodded eagerly. My school wants you to come speak to our xenobiology class. You're more famous than most politicians now. Snow seemed amused by the attention, her tail wagging slightly. Through their mental link, Marcus sensed that the wolf was still somewhat bewildered by her celebrity status but was happy to use it for good purposes. As they left the assembly building, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. A starving, abandoned creature had become a beacon of hope for outcasts across the galaxy. You know what the best part is? Marcus said to Snow as they walked through the crowded streets of the station. You're not just a survivor anymore. You're a protector and an advocate for others who need help. Snow looked up at him with those remarkable white eyes and shared a final thought through their mental connection. The message was simple but profound. She had found her pack, her purpose, and her place in the universe. The diminutive albino alien wolf who had been left to die in a desolate ship had proven that heroes come in many forms. Sometimes the universe's greatest champions are found in the most unlikely places, abandoned and forgotten, waiting for someone to see their true potential. Snow had not only survived her abandonment but had transformed it into a mission to ensure that no other being would suffer the same fate. In saving her, Marcus had unknowingly helped save countless others who would benefit from the new protections her case had established. The story of their partnership would be told for generations, inspiring others to look beyond surface differences and see the extraordinary potential that exists in every living being. In a galaxy often divided by species and prejudice, Snow had proven that compassion, courage, and determination could bridge any gap. The starving alien wolf had become a symbol of hope, and that hope would shine across the stars for years to come.